friends, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to day 4 of my 2021 Valentine Card Series. Today I'm going to be making a card using MFT's Quality Time stamp set. So I've stamped all my images out on some Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth white cardstock with extreme black hybrid ink, and I'll be coloring with my Copic markers. I'm also going to be making a Slimline card today, so I needed a whole bunch of images. So I'm starting with my koalas, and I'm using W00, W1, and W3, laying in a bit of shadow with that W3 on the underside of the ears and alongside the face, at the top of the head, and also where that baby koala would be casting a shadow, and then a little bit on the arms and legs. And then I'm going to start to blend that out with the W1, just making sure to work over the edge of that W3 and really get a nice smooth blend, as I don't want to have any harsh lines. I want them to look really soft and fluffy. Then I'll come in with my W00 and I'm going to fill in all the rest of that white space. And again, just work over the edge of that W1 and make sure that I have smooth transitions throughout the image. And I am also going to throw on a second coat that also just helps to smooth out the blend and increases that saturation. And I'm actually going to be skipping over the coloring of the other koalas just because they're going to be exactly the same. So I thought I would leave that second layer in the video for you today so you can just see how much of a difference it really does make. So I'm working my way back down to my lightest again, and then I'm going to come in and color the baby koala. So I'm starting with that W3 again, but I'm just being a little more sparing with the lines because I want it to be just a little bit softer. So that I'm blending that out with the W1 now, and then I'll come in with that W00 and fill in the rest. And I only did one layer on the baby koala to keep him nice and light. And there you can see I've colored the rest of my koalas off screen. And now I'm going to do their noses with W5, W7, and W9. Just keeping the shadow on the left-hand side for these guys since they're facing right, and then blending toward the opposite side with the lighter colors. And then I did go back in and add a bit more of that W9 for some extra contrast. For the insides of their ears, I'm going to use R11, R20, and R22. So I'm using that R22 first to just lay in a little bit of color down at the bottom, and then I'm going to blend up with the R20, and then I'll fill in that top area with the R11 for my highlight. I also use the R11 to give some rosy cheeks to all of my koalas, and it looks kind of dark right now, but it'll fade into that gray as it dries. I'm going to go back to my R20 and R22 and add in the R24 to do the koala at the bottom left's little t-shirt, the mama koala. So I just added a bit of shading with that R24 on the underside of the arm and along the back, and then blended that out with the R22 and finished with the R20. And I'll do a second layer on that as well, just real quick and easy, going right over the previous layers that I've done. So everything is already mapped out for me, and I just have to lay those colors down once again. And then I'll move up to the baby koala right above him and do one of the little stripes on his t-shirt. The next combo I'm using is B23, B26, and B29, and I'm going to do the little baby koala at the bottom left, his little t-shirt, and I'm coloring it pretty much the same as I did the mama's, just a little shadow under his arm and along his back, and then blending out with the mid-tone and the highlight. I did my second layer on that as well, real quick, and then I'm going to go up and do another stripe on the little baby koala's t-shirt up there. I really love that striped shirt. I think it's a really great opportunity to kind of pull your color palette together. I just think it's really cute. So once I have that done, I'm also going to do the mama koala in the center. I did her t-shirt with that combo. And then I'm moving on to my yellows, and I'm using Y13, Y15, and Y17 for that. And I'm going to do one more stripe on that baby koala's t-shirt, and then the bottom stripe I went back to my blue combo just to complete that because I didn't want to introduce any more colors. So I'm going to move on to the branches of the tree, and I'm using E42, E43, and E44. Just a little of that E44 for a shadow, and then blending up with the E43, and I left a nice big highlight for that E42. And then I'm going to do the large tree as well. I'm trying to just use the very tip of my marker and light pressure when I get to those really skinny areas. And I will take that E44 in as far as I can. I don't want to have it turn just like all the darkest color. So if I can really only squeeze in a little bit, I'm going to skip the E44 and just have enough of it in, you know, the little bit of thicker places that you get that contrast. And then I'm blending that out with the E43, same thing. Where I can, I'm going to, you know, just use the very tip of that marker, light pressure so I get a nice thin line. And my marker was very juicy, so I ended up taking off the cap on the other end just so that I didn't have any blobs that I didn't want. I've mentioned a few times I just recently refilled all my markers, so they're nice and juicy and so fun to color with, but sometimes they do have a little bit of a leak when they're extra full. So I'm moving on now to my leaves. That's the last thing to color. I'm using YG11, YG13, and YG17. So the YG17 is now my darkest, and then the YG13 is my midtone. Where I can, I'm leaving space for the YG11, but on the smallest leaves, I only ended up using the darker two shades. So I'm just going to go quickly through the rest of the leaves on this tree. And my plan is actually not even to use this tree as a tree. I actually just want all of the various branches. So this was the quickest and easiest way I thought of that I could get a whole bunch of branches going in different directions rather than stamping the one extra and then having to die cut it a whole bunch of times and have it be looking all the same. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. So I'm going to take a black Sakura Jelly Roll pen and just go over the eyes of all of my koalas and make them nice and bright and shiny. So it really brings your images back to life, and then I'll trim these images out with their coordinating dies. The pattern papers I'm using are from the Pebbles Lovely Moments collection. I really love this paper pad. I think the colors in it are gorgeous. So I'm going to pull out this floral design, and then I'm going to flip through and choose one more print that I think will go well with it. So I'm looking for something that has a bit more of a tone-on-tone look, like this green polka dot would be good. The text print wouldn't be bad, but in the end I really liked this leaf print. I thought it just went really well with the theme, with the branches and the koalas. So those are the two that I'm going to trim down. I'm using the Mama Elephant Slim Card Basics for this. So I cut down my floral print pattern paper, and then I also cut down a piece of thin white cardstock. It was just Georgia Pacific, to adhere to the back of that to make it just a little bit more stable. And I ran out of my liquid glue and I didn't have a backup, unfortunately. So I used what I could, and then I'm going to cut these little windows out of there. So I'm going to get them spaced just how I want them on that panel, and then I'll hold them in place with a little bit of Post-it tape. I always like to do the outer ones first and then center the middle one between them, and then I'll run that through my die cut machine. I'll pull out those window panels. I can save those for another card if I want to, and I did. I haven't used them yet, but I did save them. Now I'm going to cut my cardstock down for a Slimline card. I'm using a piece of 8.5 by 11 ballet slippers cardstock from Lawn Fawn, and I cut that at the 7-inch mark, so it measures 8.5 by 7, and then I'm going to score that in half at the 3.5-inch mark. So my scoreboard doesn't go down quite far enough, so I just do it about halfway and then flip the cardstock over and do the rest of the way. And I'm using my Lawn Fawn Teflon bone folder. And then I'm just burnishing it with the other end. And then I'm going to stamp out my sentiment with Lawn Fawn Noble Fur ink on some sage cardstock. So I'm stamping out the sentiment that says, "You give the best hugs." And I am going to stamp that down a couple of times because this ink does dry back a bit and I want that to be nice and bold. And then I will pop my card base in my MISTI, make sure that the spine is lined up with the left-hand side. And now I'm stamping on the inside of my card with Lawn Fawn bubblegum ink. So I stamped the other two koalas that didn't make it to the front of the card and the sentiment that says, "I need some quality time with you," which I think is really cute. So I've trimmed down another piece of that sage cardstock with another of the Mama Elephant Slim Card Basic dies. It's all included in that set. And now I'm using some tape runner adhesive since I have no more liquid glue. And I'm going to center that on my card base. Just smooth that down into place. I have taken my little 3 window frame and lined that with some foam tape on the back. So I'm going to peel off the release papers and I'm going to use the grid on my mat to make sure that I get that nice and straight, and I'm going to line that up. I didn't get it quite right the first time, so I'm just going to reposition that and then try again and make sure that I have that nice and straight so none of that green leaf cardstock is showing on any of the outside edges. I'll add some more tape runner adhesive to the back of that, and I'm going to center that on my card base as well. So just making sure all of the edges are nice and even and then pressing that down into place. So now I'm ready to begin adhering my images, and I'm going to cut apart this tree like I mentioned, just taking each of the branches and making sure that I have a nice section on each of those so that I can kind of fill in the space behind the koalas in the windows and have it look like they are up in the trees. So the only piece that I didn't end up using was the bottom of the trunk that had no leaves on it. So I've added some foam tape to the back of my little koalas that are in that first window. I haven't peeled off the release papers yet, so it's not sticky, and that way I can kind of reposition it and adjust and figure out where I want that tree branch to go. Once I've decided, I'm going to add some more tape runner adhesive to the back of that and put it back where I want it. I want that edge to kind of look like it's coming from the left-hand side, and I purposely let it overlap the top of the window frame just to give it some lift. And then I'll peel off those release papers from my little mom and baby koala and attach them. And then the other mom and baby koala that are like one image, they're going to go in the right-hand window. So I'm adding some more branches with that tape runner adhesive coming out from either side just to fill in that space like I mentioned. And then I'll peel off those release papers and center them between them. So I've got just the one more branch left, and I'm just trying to figure out how I wanted that to go. And I thought it would be fun to kind of turn it in a different direction, make it look a little bit more like a sapling. So I have that one kind of coming out of the left-hand side of the center window, and then I'll get my mom and baby koala kind of positioned together so that they look like they're walking into each other's arms, which I thought was really cute. So I just wanted to readjust those a bit. I felt like mom was pushed down a little too far below, so I pulled them up a little bit higher. Thought about using that branch, but didn't like it. So I trimmed down my sentiment with one of the Essential Stitched Sentiment Strips from MFT. And I'm going to add a little bit of foam tape at the windows where it would overlap into that space, where it would create a dip. I want my sentiment strip to be really well supported, so if this goes through the mail, you know, it's not going to get like bent and crushed. So I'm going to add that over on the right hand side there, just up toward the top, and it wasn't quite straight, so I just readjusted that real quick and made sure that it was lined up nice with the stitching detail on the floral frame. To finish off the card, I'm going to add a bit of sparkle with some Stardust Stickles. I'm going to add it to all of the little t-shirts on the koalas, and I just added it to the shaded areas. That's typically where I like to put it because I think it shows up the best there, has the most contrast behind it. And I will pick that up so that you can see how that catches the light, and give you another peek at the inside. And that is going to complete my card for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I think it turned out super cute. If you did like it, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. I post new ones every Monday and Friday. If you're interested in any of the products that I use, you'll find those listed and linked in the description bar below the video. And if you'd like to keep watching, here are 2 extra videos from previous years of Valentine Card Series. You can click on either one to check them out. I hope you all have an amazing day. Bye-bye.